What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and today we're going to discuss how to get back to activity or sport after a long break away, whether that be from injury or you just took a bit of a hiatus, trying to step back from it for a small while. But I'm going to give you a couple of techniques of what you could look at and what you can focus on, and what you can include or incorporate into your routine when you are getting back. So hopefully more people do get back to sport, because I really dislike seeing people out of sport or out of activity or out of doing things that they love because of the fact that there's something going on in the background, or they feel that they've been away from it for too long. And I think that's a big one as well, is that you might be, I know a lot of people when they go traveling and they go away, or they might get injured and they might have a long-term injury and just feel that it's not the right option to go back at the time, and then a few years pass and I feel really I should go back at that. I love doing it, but they just don't know where to start. So that's what this podcast is going to be about, give you an idea of what you can do, what you can focus on to get back. Now, before I do, I should mention also that this is something that I specialize in myself, in that my clients that I work with, a large majority of them are people who have been out of sport for a long time, or been out of activity because of injury, or they've been just playing at a lower level because the fact that they have an injury going on in the background, they're fearful that they may cause it to flare up again or to kick up again, and because of that then they're avoiding different activities that they love. And what I find with a lot of people that I work with is that they say it becomes like a habit, in that they stop one thing because of an injury, and then that leads over to another thing where they're protecting it a small bit, and they'll say I'll get back at it in a couple of months, or get back at it in a couple of weeks, or whatever it is, and then that just drags on and they're out of it for a year, 2 years, or even 3 years. So that's why I want to give people an idea of what you can do in this podcast. But in general, if that sounds like you, if you've been out of an activity or a sport that you love because of injury or because of whatever reason, and you're looking to get back into it and you don't know where to start, send me a message, send me an email at mobilitytutor@gmail.com, mobilitytutor@gmail.com. Or you could just get on my Instagram. I have a contact form there. You can fill that out, and what we'll do is we'll organize a call. We'll discuss it, see where you're at, where you want to be, what your goals are, and then we'll talk about, I'll give you a couple of ideas of what you could work on. And after that then, if you want to, I'll talk about the type of work that I do myself specifically. If you want to jump on board, perfect. If not, you can at least look at, or you can take the points that I make and you can incorporate them into your life. To get yourself back. So check that out. You can also just send me a message on Instagram if you have any questions, but check all that out and we can jump on that call sooner rather than later, because if you've been putting it off a long time, you may as well just get into it now. Sometimes people just need that bit of a kickstart to get going, and when you don't know where to start, it can be fairly overwhelming. So just get in contact and we can organize that. But in this episode of the podcast, I want to talk about the main issues first that people have when returning to sport, the problems that I often see when people do actually return to sport, and then how to overcome them, issues and the problems. So really the main issues that people have when they are returning to sport would be, a lot of people, firstly, they lack the confidence. Now, they lack confidence in themselves to be able to get back to the level they were at before, or they lack confidence in their body to hold up to perform at the same level. Now, it doesn't mean that you're always performing in competitive sport at the highest level. It could just mean that you want to go down with your friends and play Astro on a Thursday or Friday night. It could be that you want to go hiking or going for a mountain or climb a mountain with your friends or your family or just by yourself, but you just don't have that confidence. And it could be as well that there's a fear there of re-injury, and that's a huge one that holds people back, especially when if they've been out for a while, and the longer they've been out, the kind of bigger this gets, is that fear of re-injury can really take over people. And I think it's something that you can improve it very quickly, or you can not. Well, it takes a small bit of time and a few belief changes to improve it, but in general sense, you can improve it. It just takes that bit of a clear plan and a bit of structure to get that right. Now, the other areas where you'll have anxiety, people feel a bit lost about what to do or where to go, or do they want to get back, or people will want to get back, and then when they actually have to start putting the plan in place, they'll start feeling like, oh Jesus, do I really want to get back now, because it seems like a lot of effort, and that's just really the perception of it is a lot more effort than what it actually is to get back. Because in general, it's not that difficult to get back to sport, get back to activity, once you have the right plan in place. It really, and I don't mean to make it sound easier than it is, you might get back at a lower level and then look to increase it from there, but to actually get back, in a general sense, it's not too difficult from a physiological standpoint, and that your body adapts so fast. It's so strong, especially if you've trained in that activity before. It's very, very strong, and it's very adaptable. And if you just take your time to go through it, you'll find that you'll get back at a good level very quickly. So feeling lost, feeling confused, being anxious about getting back, having that fear of re-injury, just lacking confidence overall are huge barriers for people to get back at it. And overcoming those barriers at the start can be difficult, but when you look back on them, you'll see that you ticked them off one after another, and you were able to get over them. You were able to get back to what you were doing. And I don't mean to make it sound easier than it is, but it's very simple. It's very similar to like pre-season training. Pre-season training, although it's awkward and grueling, and you don't want to do it because you haven't trained in so long, you just don't feel that good getting back into it for the first week or two. But once you get back into the swing of things, it's good again. Is the same as getting back after a long break or after an injury. You will have that phase that it's tough to get into it, but after that you'll find that you will improve very quickly, and it is important to know that. So there will be barriers along the way and obstacles along the way, but if you just persevere, if you keep pushing on, if you have someone that's keeping you accountable to it, you will get over them. Now, another issue I have is people actually not being able to manage flare-ups when they get back, because flare-ups in general after an injury are inevitable. You're going to have times that you push and the body pushes back, and being able to manage those, knowing what to do when they happen, and knowing when it's actually time to push on a small bit more and when you should pull back is really, really important. So managing flare-ups is a big one. After that, then you need to look at the kind of mental barriers of being slow to catch up to the team, or your performance is poor, and knowing that, kind of preparing yourself at the start, knowing that will be the case, and it will take a small bit of time to get up, instead of thinking that you're going to be able to just jump back in at the same level. Now, people will say that all the time. They'll say, I know I shouldn't, or I know I'm not going to be able to compete at the same level straight away. But once they get back in and they're back with their friends or old teammates or whatever it is, they'll want to push themselves, and then they'll feel like they are way behind and that they're never going to catch up. And that can be overwhelming for some people, and so overwhelming that some people actually step back from it because I think that, all right, I'm never going to get back to that level again. But you can do it. As I said, it just takes a bit of time, and being aware of it before you go in, and kind of having a bit of a plan of different markers that you want to get to, or what you want to improve on, is important in setting that up and getting that to the level, or getting back to the level you want to be at. So moving on from there, they're kind of the main issues before getting back. And then the main problems when people do get back is that a lot of people return too fast. So they've been out of it for a year, maybe 6 months or 2 years or whatever it is, and then they just jump back in at the same level as what they were doing before. Now, there's a lot of problems with this. First, you're not going to be up to that level, and because of that, your injury risk is going to be very high. And then second, it's going to knock your motivation when you're trying to train and you're trying to keep up with them, and you're just not getting back to the same level. Sometimes it's nice to take baby steps and get back into it, and then sometimes it is nice to jump into it at a higher level than you should, and kind of get an experience of it again and get the feeling for it again, and then pull back a small bit, because there always is going to be that push and pull, as I said before. So return to the level, or making sure that you're progressing into it and you're not just going from doing nothing to doing everything very fast is huge. Now, also on top of that, actually having a clear plan of what you're going to do to return. So are you first going to hit the gym, then start running, then get back into, let's say, the warm-ups and a couple of drills, and then get back into the warm-ups, a couple of drills, and then play a match, play a match in training, or a bit more competitive stuff in training, and then play maybe 20 minutes of a match, play 40 minutes of a match, and then play a full match. That's the way you have to look at it as well, that you're not just saying, okay, feeling good here now on a Friday night, I'm going to play a full match on the Sunday, and even though you're only back in for 2 weeks, because as I said, your body adapts so quick that you can get that feeling that, oh geez, I'm feeling very, very good here, and you'll jump back in at a higher level than you should. So having a clear plan of how you're going to do that is really important. Then I guess when you are looking at like the pre-seasons and what you do before it, you need to look at your old injuries, how to prehab them, and then what to do in your pre-season. So what you should focus on based off of what had happened to you in the past. So if you've had different injuries in the past, let's say back or knee, and a lot of people don't just have one injury when they stop sport. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. It's because their back was kicking up, their knee was very sore, their hip was very sore, and they just couldn't handle it all and they couldn't push on at the same level as they used to. So it's making sure that you take care of all those and you don't just focus in on, okay, well, the back is the reason that I stopped, or the hip is the reason that I stopped. And by doing that, then you will be able to build those to the level that you need and the capacity that you need them at, and they'll be able to tolerate the loads of the game and of the demands of the sport. So that's a huge one. People lacking the ability to tolerate the demands of the sport when they get back to it because they jump back at too much of or too high a level. Now, other things that can happen with that is the injury hasn't cleared up fully, or hasn't cleared up to a state that they're able to actually return to sport. So they feel good even though they're jogging around and they're kicking a bit of ball and that, but then once they get into a sprint and they have to take a tackle and do cuts and they have to do that repeatedly or do a couple of times in a game or in a training session, then things will start to flare up again because the body wasn't used to doing that. And it's making sure that you do take out the time to rehab those injuries fully and then prehab your body so that you can get into it. So prehabbing involves improving your strength and improving mobility, improving your endurance. All of those are kind of incorporated into your prehab plan. Now, if you look at that and you're going to get a better idea of what you need to focus on, maybe take out a journal and write down what you need to focus on, what you need to improve on, then you can start making proper gains, okay? And then you can start to get a better understanding of what load management is and why it's important. Now, that's a huge problem is people go back in full hog and they just don't take load into account. Now, as I've talked about in many previous podcasts, so if you want to check out, I think 2 podcasts before this or 3 podcasts before this, I have what contributes to your load. And in that podcast, I talk about all the other aspects. Everyone understands physical load or has an idea of physical load where you're training a couple of days a week, let's say 4 days a week. You might be training, or even 5. A lot of people train 5, that they train 3 on the pitch or 3 on the road and 2 in the gym. Or a lot of people train 6 where they're doing other stuff, or even 7 where they're doing small things every day. Now, there's other things that contribute to your load as well, like your cognitive load, what work demands are like, if you have a family in the background, what your sleep has been like recently. Then you have like emotional load, are you fighting with people, your spiritual load as well, are you connected to your values and all that. There's a lot more that goes into it than just physical load. And without understanding load management, you'll find it difficult to set yourself up to put yourself in the best position to get back at it. Okay, so that's why I say you need to understand that a good bit. And then when you do understand load management, you can plan your recovery. Okay, just doing more and more and more is not the goal. It's not the best option. You need to pull back and you need to make sure that you do actually recover and you take a couple of days off to give the body a chance to adapt to the stress that you put on it. If you can do that and you can manage that properly and monitor your progress, that's when you make huge gains, and that's when you get back at it without too many setbacks, because you will have setbacks along the way and there's no point saying that you won't. And being prepared for setbacks is important, mentally and physically, knowing what to do, and emotionally, I guess, knowing what to do when they do happen. Now, I guess the last thing to talk about is how do you overcome these issues? What can you use? What techniques can you use to overcome a lot of the issues and the problems that I've mentioned above? So how do we overcome the issues mentioned above? Well, it is vitally important, extremely important to put a clear plan in place. And then you need to stay consistent to that. So you need to look at how you can progress, or what goals you have set out, what markers you have set out before you progress to the next level. And then at each level, you need to assess how the last one was before it, reflect on it. How did it go? Did it go well, or did it go poorly? Did it not go as expected? If so, you alter and you change the program slightly. Now, you don't need huge changes in the program generally once you have the right one in place, but you do need to make small changes along the way. And that sometimes you need to pull back on what you're doing, and sometimes you need to say, well, I was too easy on that phase, so I need to push on a small bit on the next phase. Now, keeping consistent to it is the most important. Having a program set out for 12 weeks, 14 weeks, or 18 weeks, whatever it is, and only sticking to that for the first 4 weeks, and then you start to feel good, is a load of shite. And you're not going to see long-term improvement, and you're going to be out again soon after if you do that, okay? Because you're not, well, most likely, I should say, because you're not dealing with the underlying issues. You're not making sure you're not taking a comprehensive approach to it. And if you don't do that, it's difficult to make long-term change. These things didn't happen overnight, so they're not going to change overnight, okay? Especially when you've been out for a long time. It's not that you can get it all back within 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So what do? You need to build up your exercise tolerance and slowly add chaos to your training. Now, what does that mean? So exercise tolerance is obviously your running, your jumping, hopping, landing, your lifting weights, being able to squat, deadlifts, all those movements, bench, press, pull, whatever it is. You need to do all those movements, and you need to get strong at them. Now, adding chaos to training is where it gets difficult for people, in that it's very easy to do everything in a controlled environment where it's all nice and calm, and you can run out and catch a ball and turn over and kick, where it's all nice and easy. Or you can, let's say, if you're doing a triathlon, nice flat roads on a track, but you know you're going to be racing in a hilly course, and all you do is practice on a track. Well, that's not that much chaos. So you need to add more chaos. And now in a game situation, it's going to be, in a GA situation, it's going to be like different players coming at you, cutting and jumping, hopping, stop, acceleration, deceleration, all those different things. And then avoiding players, being able to take a hit, having your focus on something else, external focus, where you're focused on the ball as opposed to just running out and knowing where you're going to step each time. Maybe it could be avoiding targets or avoiding obstacles. All of these things. That's what chaos is, and that's what a game is. Rarely in a game do you just get to go out, get a ball and kick it over. Or rarely in a game do you just get a nice easy run where there's not somebody on your back or pulling off you or dragging off you. And if you do add chaos early in it, you can see that you will build confidence in these positions. And that's where it comes to building confidence and changing your beliefs around how the body will react to it. After that, then you also need to look at managing or monitoring your flare-ups, and then managing them where possible. So when things start to kick back and flare up, is it time to take a day off or 2 days off, or do you look to push on a small bit more because you know you're going to get more out of it if you push on with that flare-up? So this is where monitoring flare-ups and actually managing them really comes into it, and having a knowledge how to do that is really, really important as well. Then you need to make sure that you build strength and capacity around the area to reduce injury risk, but also to improve recovery time. So the stronger you are, the quicker you recover. Okay, and if your training load is going to be high, if you're getting into season again, well, then you're going to be obviously playing matches, you're going to be training, you're going to be competing for places. So you need to recover fast so you don't have to take training sessions off. And having a good level of strength and good mobility will improve your recovery time so that you're able to get back at it faster. An easy example of that, and as a friend described to me, a researcher from Athlone Institute of Technology, Lorcan Daly, he's going for his PhD at the moment, and it's around this recovery protocols. We did a podcast analysing recovery protocols. It's called 24 or 25, where we discussed this. But if you think about somebody who can bench press 100 kilo, okay, is their max bench press, and you think about somebody who can max bench press 60 kilo, and you put them both on a 40 kg bar, or let's say a 50 kg bar. Now, the person whose max is 100 kilo will be able to bench that multiple times, and will, let's say if you get them to do it 10 reps, will be able to bench that 10 reps multiple times and will recover faster in between sets, and it won't be as much of a stress on their body, as opposed to the person whose max is 60 kg. They won't be able to bench it as many times. They'll struggle with it after maybe 1 or 2 sets, or 2 or 3 sets. And then, let's see if they even get to 10 reps first. And then they will be fatigued for a long time after, and they'll feel it the next day a lot more than the person who is benching whose max bench is 100 kilo. The reason is that person is not able to tolerate that load as much, and it has more of an effect on the body. So the same thing goes to training. is if you have good strength levels, you'll recover a lot faster after training because you'll be able to tolerate those loads, and there won't be as much of a stress on the body. Now, that's a really, really important aspect of off-season and pre-season training, and I have talked about off-season training in the podcast just before this, what to focus on. So if you want to check that one out after this. But then I guess the other one is when you're talking about monitoring flare-ups, you need to educate yourself on what causes a flare-up, what contributes to a flare-up, and why you're getting them. And then having a kind of an overview of what could be contributing to your load that causes a flare-up. Now, if you do, then you'll know when to push and pull. You'll get a better idea of how to do that, and you won't be caught in the mix when it does happen that you have to take a week off or 2 weeks off after. So it is important, I guess, when you are monitoring flare-ups and you're managing them and you're building strength and capacity, you have to rehab that injury. You have to rehab the injury that you had before to the demands of the sport. And that comes all into, it comes into like building tolerance and adding chaos, and then monitoring how the injury is when, as you're playing and how you're training, and monitoring how it is in the gym, when you're building strength and you're working on your mobility stuff. All of that comes in together. So the points I'm making, they all tie in together. Then I guess the other things outside that is understanding load management and what contributes to load, managing recovery outside of that, and having a good structure to your recovery days as well, so that you can push on and really, really improve with everything that you're doing. Now, I have a podcast on structuring recovery day. I have a podcast on load management, so check all those out. But if you get all these right, then you can return to sport at a nice level, and you can take your time to get back into it. So I guess that the last one that really helps with people, and it's why coaching works so well, whether it be online or in person, it's why having a coach over a team works so well, have a trainer work so well, is that having somebody to keep you accountable to the program goes a long way in helping you return. Because as I said, how many people jump on for 4 weeks and then start to fall off it again because they feel like, okay, I'm at a level I need to be. Then 2 to 3 weeks later, things start kicking up and they're out then, and they miss a month of training because of that. So having someone to keep you accountable and that can monitor it for you and check it for you is a higher level aspect. And it's actually having the idea or having the knowledge that you need help with something goes a long way in you reaching out to people and asking them for help. And I know myself in different situations, I've always had to do that. It's something I had to come to learn, that if there's something that I didn't know how to do it, I could go and learn it myself and take the time to learn it myself, or I could reach out and find someone who'd be able to help me with that to accelerate it. And the example I give to people is you can learn the guitar by yourself, but having a teacher who can direct what you do means that you learn it a lot faster, okay, once you're doing the stuff that you enjoy doing. Another analogy on accountability is that when you're younger and you're brushing your teeth, you need somebody. Your parents tell you every night, brush your teeth, did you brush your teeth? And they push it. And because they do that, you start to build that habit, you get more used to it, and then you see the benefits of it, and then long term you start doing it a bit more, and you start doing it more yourself. You don't need that accountability anymore, hopefully. And that is because it does take that bit of direction at the start and that bit of consistency to get things and put them in place. So that is the last aspect of it that I think is as important as anything else. And if you don't take care of all those, you'll find it difficult to get back to the same level that you were at. And having set goals that you know where you're trying to get to is just as important. So that's really everything I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about the main issues and problems with returning to sport, and like the psychological issues about feeling lost and being anxious and fearful that you return, or fearful of re-injury, or fearful of returning at a lower level, lacking that confidence and being a bit confused on what to do. Problems of people returning too fast or at too high a level and just not understanding load management, not having a clear plan, not actually taking the time to clear up the injury fully, and then lacking the ability to tolerate the demands of the sport, or just not planning your recovery. Then I was just talking about getting a clear plan in place and being as consistent to it as possible. Building up exercise tolerance and adding your chaos to training, and chaos is anything outside of that controlled environment where you actually have to avoid things and take your focus and put it on different, put it on a ball or put it on something else, maybe a target. making sure you're building your strength and you're prehabbing, educating yourself around it, and then having somebody to keep you accountable to the program. So that's everything I wanted to talk about today, guys. I hope that you took something away from that. And if you know anyone who's been out of sport for a long time, please send them on this podcast. Hopefully they'll have a better idea of what to do to get themselves in good shape to get back again. If you took something from this and if you enjoyed it, I would absolutely love if you could, if you're enjoying the podcast in general, add a 5-star review to iTunes, subscribe to it on podcast or iTunes or on YouTube, whatever modem or whatever medium you're listening to this on. And I would love to hear your feedback. So you can add a comment on iTunes, send me a message on Instagram if you have any questions at all. And people are doing that a lot more, and I love to see it. It really gives me the chance to see what people are missing out on in the podcast and what we can focus on a small bit more in upcoming podcasts. And then let me know if you have any topics you'd like me to cover. I'm always looking for new topics, new content ideas. So if anyone has them, let me know and I'll do my best to put one together for you. Outside of that, as I said, guys, the best way you could help me for free is to just send this podcast on to somebody else or to pop this up on your story. It goes a long way in promoting it and it really gets it out to the right people. So I guess with all that, if anyone is looking for to jump on board and it is looking to get a better idea of what they can do to maybe get themselves back to sport or what they can do to set themselves up for the best return, or if you're dealing with a long-term injury and it's really nagging at you and it's kind of getting the better of you and you want to finally get over it and you want to finally overcome it, you feel maybe like you've tried everything in the past and it hasn't worked, send me a message, whether it be through mobilitytutor@gmail.com or if you just get in contact with me through Instagram. And then we'll set up a call. We'll chat through different things that you can do. And if at the end then you want to jump on board, if you want my help, we'll make a bit of a plan and we'll go forward. If not, there's no problem at all. At least you'll have an idea of what to do yourself. So that, guys, is everything, and girls, everything that I wanted to talk about today. Thank you so much again. I hope everybody is doing well. And I will chat to you all again next week. So have a good one.